Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today we're doing a retrospective review of Deep Rising. Full screams ahead!
Written and directed by Stephen Sommers, starring Treat Williams, Famke Janssen, Anthony Heald, Kevin O'Connor, and Wes Studi. This movie's about an unsuspecting captain that's taking a group of mercenaries to a cruise ship filled with the richest people in the world, with the intention of stealing everything aboard this ship and then blowing it up right after. They get more than what they bargained for. It's a big squid octopus thing that's killed the whole lot, and now they need to figure out how to either kill it or get the treasure and get away. This is a monthly recommendation from Patreon. It's from Anthony Michelli, who recently requested Tokyo Gore Police for his Baller Club, but he's actually been asking for this one for quite some time. And so his pick came up about like a month or two ago, and I just sat on it because I knew it was one that I think John needed to be here for. But it is worth noting that this will be spoiler heavy because this is a retrospective, so you should probably know that by now. Anyway, on to our likes.
You know what? I'm kicking it right off with the cast. I really enjoyed this cast. I'm not saying it just because Famke is dynamite, great actor, great character. I loved everything that she did in this film, but all the characters were cool. The first person I recognized was Sagat, mainly because I just recently watched Street Fighter. Seeing Wes Studi in this was really cool because I only know him as Sagat or Sphinx from Mystery Men, so to have him in this as this like badass leader of the mercenaries was really cool.
I really liked our cast, especially Treat Williams, who played Finnegan.
I didn't say you could put holes in my boat! That's gonna cost you extra, you know!
And you're like, this guy seems like Han Solo. And looking up the trivia, Harrison Ford was initially cast, but they didn't have the budget, so they got this guy, which is great. I loved him. I thought Treat Williams was awesome. He was a big highlight of this because everything he said was great.
Like a fine wine, I'm aging gracefully, thank you.
And he also had his first mate, or grease monkey, in Joey, who's played by Kevin O'Connor, which is strange because you're gonna look at him and you're gonna be like, this is the guy from The Mummy.
As we looked into it, Stephen Sommers wrote and directed The Mummy and The Mummy Returns.
I vote we leave. Who votes we leave?
Shut up.
He was the comic relief, and I enjoyed him.
What the hell is that? Girl from Ipanema.
It's just such a weird group of people that were basically not big names at the time that became something. It's just kind of crazy. Anyway, on to the movie. The movie is actually a lot more fun than both the title and the poster suggests. The poster is the most boring shit, but this movie, it's almost like an action comedy to some degree.
I don't mean to sound like a pussy, but this shit is starting to freak me out, man.
It reminds me a lot of like Starship Troopers in that kind of sense, where they know what they're making here and they're just having fun with it.
Who the hell are you?
Who the hell are you? I think she broke my nose.
It's not too over the top, but it is really enjoyable. I really like the action. The set pieces were fantastic, especially when you have like these big tentacle arm things. They destroy the ship and it looks amazing.
Especially when like the creature is like crushing the walls like a pop can, or they have like the floor tiles like flying up from underneath. We also get some neat kills. Now there aren't that many to talk about, but the two main ones is the axe in the head, which looked clean, and then our disintegrating man. Both of them I thought looked fantastic.
It was such a good effect, and I couldn't tell if it was practical or CG, which means they did a great job. I think the creature is pretty cool. At the time, sea monsters weren't like a massive thing in cinema, and you wouldn't have really guessed that it would have been a Cthulhu type character. I don't think. What they did well is try and hide that fact that in the main ballroom we have the body, and through the rest of the ship it's just arms going all over the place.
To have mouth-like features on your tentacles makes you think that they're individual eels. The one thing I do find funny, this was just a build-up for a King Kong reboot. The very last shot, you see Skull Island.
We actually popped, like at the end, it's like, oh shit, it's Skull Island. And it was a joke to us. But when you look it up, that was the intent. Peter Jackson's King Kong was supposed to be his, like, Stephen Sommers King Kong. However, this movie kind of fizzled out and they're like, nah.
He ended up doing The Mummy instead.
So the fact that this was a prequel to King Kong and it was canon is not only hilarious, but also makes sense for the music that played when this big creature formed.
knockoff Godzilla music.
But like not knockoff. I'm gonna put this on the marketing, honestly, because the title sucks. Like if you hear the title Deep Rising, you think something like The Abyss, which a good movie in its own right, but this isn't like that at all.
The original title was Tentacles.
Like if I heard that name back in the day, I would have went and saw this. Especially our age at the time. Like Titanic just came out. You know how many times I went to Titanic because I wanted to make out with some chick because it was the longest movie? It's like, all right, best bang for my buck, Titanic. I watched that movie like 4 times in the theater. Ashley Vella, I remember. Great times.
I hope she doesn't watch this. Jay Bond, you.
The fact that I'm choosing Titanic, which came out the same month, but I didn't even know this movie existed, like that's saying something. I was your prime like target, especially when it had Xenia Onatopp from GoldenEye. You know that we were playing GoldenEye in our basements for years. Like this is a prime opportunity to sell it exactly to me, and it didn't happen. I know this is our likes, but I'm just saying, marketing team, whoever you are, Hollywood Pictures, very original name. Before we get on to our dislikes, the best part of this movie is a Sea-Doo action sequence because it was so fun and cool. Like going down this corridor, shooting this thing, Famke's on the back cocking his gun for him. Cock it! And they're just whipping around and there's explosions and there's all types of cool shit happening. It felt like this should be in a theme park, and had it done better at the box office, marketing team, maybe we would have seen it.
Maybe we should go to our dislikes. This is just a nitpicky dislike, but I did not like how they couldn't say the name of the ship. Anytime the owner of the ship would say its name, it just sounded like gibberish or like
Blah 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 blah.
The Argonautica!
When we find out what they actually were saying, it's like not even hard to say. Argonautica. We don't need to make a whole big deal about this.
I just need to say it.
I didn't like how much of a dick Sagat was. Here's poor Joey. He just got shot by this guy and he's trying to do him a solid.
Don't say I never gave you nothing.
And then that prick shoots at him. I'm glad he got his comeuppance, but damn, I was so mad at him. He's just such a shithead. And I know that we're supposed to feel that way. So these aren't necessarily actual dislikes. Just let me bitch.
I also didn't like how trigger happy all the mercenaries were. I wouldn't picture a mercenary to be scared of everything and just like constantly like shooting and wasting ammo.
Right, especially when you know that like the main guy handpicked them from all across the world. That's why they were all from different countries. And because they were the best of the best. Yet they see a fucking firework and they start shooting at it. And then they're like, wow, that was really fun. I've never shot a gun. Well, they didn't say I never shot a gun, but it seemed like they never shot a gun. And then they kept firing and wasting all their ammo. What are you doing, guys? I feel like that whole group was a fake it till you make it kind of situation. It's like, oh, Craigslist ad for... Oh yeah, I can do that for sure. Yeah, I'm totally like a really hard-ass Australian guy.
Though Mulligan knew what he was doing.
Yeah, the hacker. He was like the best with the gun too. How are the guys that were supposed to be good with the guns kind of shit with the guns, but the hacker who's not even supposed to be touching a gun is great with a gun? I didn't like some of the character decisions. Why are you taking the goddamn elevator when this thing is full of water? You know there's gonna be electrical problems. Just don't do it.
I think the biggest character decision was the significant amount of usable boats that were easily accessible at all times that nobody decided to use to escape the ship.
Right, they can see the island they need to get to. It's not that far away. And it's proven once we know that Joey can get there just by paddling on a surfboard. So imagine you just got one of those boats that are attached to this massive ship to get to nearby island in such an emergency. This fucking knockoff Nathan Fillion here. I gotta fix my ship.
Can your boat make it to that island without the engine parts?
Not a chance in hell!
And like they actually make mention when they first get on the ship that like all the life preservers, all the boats are still intact and ready to use.
Except for the one boat that they ran over all willy-nilly when their sonar literally just worked at the very last second. It's like, oh, you're 5 feet from this thing. Oh, I can see a thing, smash.
They had the coolest binoculars too. Like,
I mean, that's how he ended up seeing their destination. But like, had he not had those, then what? Like his boat would just crash into it. It was pretty foggy. Like if he wasn't wearing those things, he could have crashed right through the damn thing.
We'll take over from here.
I will say I was a little disappointed that most of the kills were just people getting like dragged off screen. It was a big cast, so a lot of people we didn't see die.
All of the budget probably went into the visual effects, to be honest. But I agree. It's a bunch of blood and water deaths, and it's unfortunate. Now it's time for our final thoughts and ratings. Deep Rising was surprisingly enjoyable. The name sucks, the poster sucks, but it's definitely worth watching. It's an extremely upbeat movie. It's playful, it's got great action sequences, and it's got a cool creature. The setting is great and it gets destroyed, and it's just a good time in general. Like, there's not a lot of things that you can really say this is terrible, because maybe the dialogue, like some of the ADR is shoddy, some of the character decisions are questionable, and the script isn't stellar, but I feel like that if you know that it's self-aware, then you're gonna have a great time. Ebert gave this one of his like worst reviews ever, I guess. But I don't think Ebert realized that this was a self-aware movie. They knew they were making like a campy creature feature here. So I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't think it's the best movie ever, but it was definitely worth a watch, so I'm gonna give this 3.5 1998's version of Poker Stars out of 5.
I knew nothing about this movie. I think I enjoyed it way more than I should, mainly because after watching films like The Mummy and Van Helsing, you've seen it done right in those films, and this is its predecessor. So if you like those movies, you're gonna like this one because it has a similar feel. The characters are really enjoyable and they all work well together in this movie. You have a cool creature that you see throughout the entire film until they do the grand reveal and you get an even cooler creature, which is awesome. I would have loved to see in the direction that Stephen Sommers would have taken the whole Godzilla King Kong universe in the like early 2000s. A few nitpicky things with the story like plot points, character decisions, and the lack of variety of kills does bring this film down a notch, but I would recommend it. So with that being said, I'm gonna give this film 4 double-barrel sawed-off flare guns out of 5.
No witnesses allowed.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, links are in the description. And if you want the opportunity to recommend a movie for us to review, check out the Patreon link, also in the description. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with everything Bloodbath and beyond.